In 1933, Hitler became Chancellor of Germany, and within a month, democracy was dismantled. The Reichstag fire gave the Nazis an excuse to crack down on opposition, and the Enabling Act granted Hitler dictatorial powers. Soon after, Germany withdrew from the League of Nations, setting the stage for aggressive policy. The Nazi economy, driven by rearmament and state-controlled programs, reduced unemployment and strengthened the military. In 1935, the Nuremberg Laws institutionalized racism, stripping Jews of their rights, and by 1936, Hitler's regime had rearmed the Rhineland, directly violating the Treaty of Versailles. The world watched but did not react. From 1936 onward, Germany's ambitions became more apparent. The Rome-Berlin Axis in 1936 and the Anti-Comintern Pact with Japan in 1937 signaled Hitler's alignment with fascist powers. The Spanish Civil War became a testing ground for German military strategy, particularly the Luftwaffe's bombing campaigns. Then came the Anschluss of Austria in 1938, an unopposed annexation that emboldened Hitler. The Munich Agreement later that year, where Britain and France appeased Germany by allowing it to take the Sudetenland from Czechoslovakia, provided disasters. By March 1939, Hitler seized the rest of Czechoslovakia, exposing appeasement as a failure. In August 1939, the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact shocked the world. The Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact secretly divided Eastern Europe between Germany and the USSR. Days later, on September 1st, Germany invaded Poland, targeting World War II. The early war years saw overwhelming German victories. Poland fell in weeks, and by mid-1940, Denmark capitulated in just 6 hours. One of the fastest surrenders in history. Shortly after, Norway was occupied, then the Blitzkrieg campaign struck Western Europe. The Netherlands, Belgium, and Luxembourg fell in weeks, and France, despite its heavily fortified Maginot Line, was unable to resist. German forces advanced rapidly, even pushing through Verdun, the symbolic site of one of World War I's bloodiest battles. By June 1940, Paris had fallen and France surrendered. With France out of the war, Britain stood alone. Hitler's Luftwaffe launched the Battle of Britain, attempting to force the UK into submission. However, British resilience, aided by radar technology and the Royal Air Force, prevented the German invasion. Meanwhile, the war expanded in 1941. Germany invaded the Balkans, supporting Italy in Greece and conquering Yugoslavia. But the most critical event was Operation Barbarossa, launched in June 1941. Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union marked the largest land invasion in history. Initially, German forces made rapid gains, encircling Soviet armies and reaching the outskirts of Moscow. However, the brutal winter and Soviet counteroffensives, including the defense of Leningrad and the Battle of Moscow, stalled the advance. Then came December 1941. The attack on Pearl Harbor brought the United States into the war. Hitler declared war on the US, turning a European conflict into a truly global struggle. By 1942, the tides were shifting. Germany faced stronger resistance in the Soviet Union and the US, and Britain were preparing counteroffensives. The Nazi Empire at its peak now stood on the edge of overextension. The road to victory that led seemed unstoppable in 1939 was beginning to crack.
But what if, during Operation Barbarossa, Germany advanced into the southern parts of the Soviet Union instead of heading north? It's 1942. As Nazi Germany forces advanced into the city of Stalingrad, a new front opened up, which now focused on occupying the Caucasus. The legions in northern and southern Caucasus, which were in support of the Nazi Germany, started revolting against the Red Army. The Turkish government, keeping a close eye on the Balkan and Caucasian operations, decided to enter the Axis powers. Germany and Italy, seeing Turkey as an important strategic and tactical ally, as well decided to allow Turkey to form a coalition with the Axis bloc, with only one demand: to make the primary ideology of the Turkish government pro-fascist and anti-Semitic. Hitler respected Turkish people despite not being part of the infamous Aryan race, as they helped Germany in World War I, which was yet another reason why the bond was strong. Italy and Turkey planned and began implementing an Operation Red Sea. This operation focused on invading parts of Middle East. With the largest Pacific port. Therefore, Japan officially declared war on the Soviet Union. The Red Army, now fighting on two fronts, found themselves distraught. The rebellion within the country grew as people in the Soviet Union believed that if they refused the communist rule and sided with the Nazis, they would eventually be spared. The collapse of the USSR was inevitable. Of the nation, which would later on result in a revolution. The country had already experienced the Great Depression in the 1930s. Another economic crisis would be devastating for the people of America. For this reason, President of the United States, Franklin Roosevelt, negotiated a deal with Adolf Hitler and Emperor Hirohito to end the war with the United States. In return, there would be no more military and economic aid being provided to the Allied powers. Hitler and Hirohito agreed to these terms, and on 1944, 4th of July, on the day of Declaration of Independence, the Pact of WBT, short for Washington, Berlin, Tokyo Pact, was signed. This was disastrous for Great Britain, as it was the only powerful Allied nation which remained engaged in the war against three notorious fascist empires. The Axis powers developed an ideal plan consisting of strategies and steps on how to defeat the remaining Allied forces. First operation was against the British Raj in September of 1944. Japan, along with their allies Thailand and Turkey, attacked the British Raj. The Japanese bombed the city of Dhaka non-stop for 2 weeks until finally the eastern border shifted. On the other hand, Turkey was struggling to defeat the British Indian armies in Central Asia. Nearly independent nations sided with Turkey to show gratitude to the Axis powers for liberating them from the communist rule. British Raj eventually fell. Few years prior, Germany developed a plan on how to invade the British mainland using air forces. The concept was named Operation Sea Lion, but up till the early 1945, it was never executed, since British air defense was effective. Germany and Japan decided to lure the British air forces to the other side of the globe so the Germans could invade the mainland Britain. So Japan attacked ports all throughout the British Islands in the Pacific Ocean. Britain sent air forces to defend the islands and the front in the Pacific, as it was a strategic part of Great Britain. Germany, along with France and Norway, made an invasion. With difficulty and resistance, the British Channel was finally crossed. Fascist ideology was growing in Great Britain, and as the Germans invaded, one of the most fascist, far-right leaders was elected, Oswald Mosley, formerly in the office as the leader of the British Union of Fascists. While this transformation was occurring in mainland Britain, many of the colonies used this opportunity to declare independence. The ones which adapted to the rules set by the Nazis were not invaded. Ones that did not obey were annexed. So on May 18, 1945, World War II officially ended, as Great Britain fell into the hands of the Nazis. The world in 2025 would look completely different from today's reality. The United States of America would still be a powerful yet somewhat isolated nation, mostly having trading partners and allies in Northern and Southern America. The Slavic, Jewish, and Gypsy population all throughout the world would reduce astronomically as a result of continuous persecution and genocides. Germany now controlling most of Europe and Japan controlling most of Asia, it was clear which were the two most powerful, influential nations in the world. Similar to Cold War between US and USSR, there will be an indirect war between the Japanese Empire and the Third Reich, both trying to make technological advancements and expand their influence further. The entire Eastern Hemisphere would follow a certain authoritarian rule. As Nazism grew, resistance against it developed. Many Africans and Asians would revolt against the authoritarian rule, which was based on Nazi racial policies. Thank you for watching.